Uh, yeah. So let me introduce the speaker and the committee. First of all, thank you so much for coming here. This is our afternoon tea web forum. We name it Liveable City and how to measure it. Mr. Anger, could you please accept anyone in the waiting room?
Okay, Mrs. Dian.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so let's continue. So this web forum, we name it Liveable City and how to measure it. And then we are conducting it now, Monday on 1 August from 4 p.m. Jakarta time until finish in Zoom. So the agenda is quite simple. First of all is the opening by me, the moderator, and then there will be explanation from our presenters, and then we discuss, and then we take conclusion and making picture together. So we have two speakers right now, three including me, but will be like a very brief resuming all. First of all, we have Miss Madam Naliza Hashim, and then second one, Miss Limyola. But I think Miss Limyola will be the first presenter. And then we have our minute of meeting taker, Mr. Angger from Institut Teknologi 10 November, Surabaya. Right, so I want to introduce our organization. We are APUD, Asia Pacific Urban Designers. We are a professional association for urban designers in Asia Pacific region, working in the field of urban development, planning and design. We have two kinds of memberships, so we hope you register. Well, there are already our members here, but if you have not been our members, you can register either individually or a part of our corporate members. It's easy, just visit our website, www.aspacud.org/registration, and then you choose either individual or corporate member, or you can send the required documents to our email, which is info@aspacud.org. Actually, in the website, it's quite simple because you just need to upload all on the website, the documents, including the proof of transfer of your membership fee payment. And then you can see our profile in our website, and then our Facebook page, Instagram, and YouTube under the similar name, Asia Pacific Urban Designers. And we have also WhatsApp groups, which you already joining, yeah. And right, we conduct this web forum right now with goal or objective is to increase the knowledge of our participants, mainly our members, about Liveable City. And we hope to get ideas from you, all of you, including the presenters, about what is Liveable City and how to measure it. So, you know, actually, Liveable City is quite a discussion this decade, like many organizations or institutions trying to define on their own version, right? And some already issued a book or their publication about which city is livable according to them. But until now, we have not seen any clear, objective measurement that can use even for a common people, not only architect or urban designer. So we are trying to make it. So because why is it so important? Because the important thing is the people who live in the city, it's those people who knows the daily life there, that it's actually those people who can measure honestly whether their city is livable or not. So it's this, they need some objective and general measurement that they can use, and not only for their city, but any city they are living in. So now let me introduce our speaker, Ms. Norliza Hashim, is the Managing Director of AGM Planning and Urban Design Group, or APUDG Malaysia. And then Ms. Linyola is Head of Laboratory in School of Strategic and Global Study in Universitas Indonesia, or University of Indonesia. And I already introduced Mr. Angger also as our minute of meeting taker. So, Ms. Lin, are you ready to present your research or presentation?
Yep. Yes,
okay.
Budia.
Yeah, please, you may share your screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share screen, my slide. Could you see my slide?
Yes.
Clear now? All right.
Clear.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and probably almost evening in KL or other countries. I'm Linyola. I'm lecturer at Universitas Indonesia in Department of Urban Studies, School of Strategic and Global Studies. So thank you very much, Budian, and the institutions to invite me to deliver this discussions this afternoon about the city livability. And I probably will talk some part of the concepts and the rationales of what's behind why we need to measure it quantitatively in this probably our books that we are going to launch very soon. Yeah. So and hi everyone. Everyone, I think some of us in Jakarta and some of us in other countries. If we have discussion later, yeah, we can discuss it. But I'm just going to briefly discuss point by point in this presentation. So first is the concept. The concept itself of the livable city is actually exploring the experience of the quality of life and of the livelihood and ecological urban space environment by city dwellers. So the point here is actually concern on the city dwellers or the people living in the city through the enrichment and implementation of the resilience and sustainability concept. And this concept prioritize the well-being of the people as the focus of its development and decision making. Again, the focus is the people during the process of the planning, decision making, and development itself. However, it adopts environmentally sustainable and resilient concept in targeting the good city dwellers' welfare. Those are the key concerns that I cite from the page in our book and the one that I write it myself in chapter of the books. So the definition could be slightly developed, yeah, according to the index of the one written by each of the writers. So those are the index of the livable city itself. On the left one is actually the index that I do summarize from range of the sources. Yeah. So including the safety, attractiveness, social inclusiveness, environmentally sustainable, etc., etc. And the last one is community services, leisure and cultural opportunities. And the right one, the right side, the index that we are planning to include in our book. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 main index with some of the sub section, like the physical index consists of population, healthcare, natural disaster mitigation, and green index. As we can see, we have the green coverage plot ratio, etc., etc. The infrastructure index, we have energy, food security, housing, public transportation, and including the ICT. And social and cultural index, all index related to the people and the culture, including cultural sustainability and educations, which we also can see it from the left side. So more or less, the one in the left side, we can also see it in the, in the right side, we can also see it from the left side. Though maybe some of the keywords are almost similar, yeah, or represent one to another. I'm going to talk about this later in more details, but to come to the point of the rationales of the importance of the measurement, the quantitative measurement of the city sustainability itself, I'm going to go through some literatures and as well as some projects that we have in our department so far to explain it in better role models or examples. So this is one of the books that we always do discuss in our urban studies class on how the social issues was really highlighted in the context of how is impacted, how the social issues were really impacted by the development of the technologies, the development of the economic movement during the those 1940s era or after World War II. Yeah. So this book was written by Jane Jacobs, The Death and the Life of the Great American Series. She was actually a journalist. Yeah. She was not purely urbanist at that time, but she was really concerned on how the city societies in America during that time were really impacted by the development of highways in the big city of Americas, and the traditional sense of the neighborhood in those cities where the human movement were really disturbed by the shifting of the urban mobility to vehicle oriented, because during those era we could see after the industrial revolutions and during the opening of the modern era, the vehicle, the motorized vehicle were really developed to transport the goods, the goods from the industrial era to the commercial era. So that's why the focus of the city development during that time, it was really concerned on how to develop the wider roads and the longer roads, in the city. That's why they have the law of the highway during that time. So she was saying that this trend really impacted the neighborhood scale of the city dwellers, whereby the social activities did really happen in the road space. That's why the road become taken over by the vehicles and remove the human activities from the road. So this book was really the one that we really discussed in discussing how the social value was really impacted during that time by the development of the economic activities. So look at these examples that what we see today, how the public space are really used by the city dwellers. Yeah, this is the case of the Copenhagen in 2018 and 2020. The concern is actually we can see the comparison before and during the COVID-19 pandemic situation, where the city dwellers actually already used to use the open space or the public space in the city, but it was disturbed by the pandemic crisis itself. My point is actually this also happened during this Jacobs era, where city park were really used by the city dwellers and make the town, the city become so lively. And in the modern era or the recent years, the city dwellers also use the public space to do their social activities. Why? Because of most of them live in the apartment or in the vertical orientation development. Yeah, so they don't have the compound, they don't have the backyard. So that's why the city park or the open space or public space like this was really their target to do their social activities. And this is the data during the pandemic that in the city center, the mobility really reduced, really decreased very much. But in the neighborhood area, it was increasing. Yeah, we can see in the neighborhood area is increasing around 21% and 15% here. This also happened in Jakarta. This project was done by my groups and my students in the lab. We use the GNSS applications to measure the traffic in the city center. But unfortunately, because it really took time, we managed to do it during the pandemic only and not before. And so we divided it into 3 timelines to measure the traffic in the city center. And this is March 2021, September 2021, and March 2022. And the vehicle speed timeline to timeline really reduced. 20 kilometers per hour, 19 point something, and 17 point something. While before pandemic, the vehicle speed itself reached 10 kilometers per hour. Or if we even walk or run in the city center, is even faster compared to driving the cars. And that means that our city during nowadays years is really taken by the activities for the vehicles, and the social activities just happen in certain area only, like the public space, which is in Jakarta, we have less than 10% of the, what we call that, RTH, yeah, the green space in the city of Jakarta. And yeah, this is the result of the study. The one that I mentioned that we use GNSS. This is the vehicle speed. You see the red one represents the heavy speed and the blue one represents the higher speed. Means the traffic jam we could see in the red or yellow color here. So we can see here. And as well as we also measure the CO2, how the traffic generate the carbon emissions towards the environment. So the legend, we can see the critical one represented by red, and the blue one represented by the blue one represents the good intensity of the carbon. But here, because of the traffic was less during the pandemic, most of the colors were blue, but we concluded that the heavier traffic jam presents the higher CO2 concentration. So this is the route 1, Block M Jakarta Kota. This is the route 2, Juanda Kalideres. And the result almost the same. And those are the situations of Jakarta with the very polluted air. We can see this is very worse. This one taken from 21st floor of my apartment, and as well as this one also the scenario of Jakarta. Jakarta was actually ranked as the worst, one of the worst, maybe fourth, number fourth of in the world of the most polluted city in the world. And the latest one was June this year, which is last month. Sorry, we are already in August, maybe 2 months ago. And what happened in the marginal area of the city? This is also our research that we did conducted in slum area of northern Jakarta coastal area, and this is the area, the illegal slum area, the illegal housing area in the nearby the beach, and it's very dirty, as we can see, the typical slum area in the city. But what the other side of the research that I could see is with this kind of poor environment, the waste everywhere, the pollution everywhere. Even me myself, I was there and I couldn't bear with the smell that came out from the water, the blocked water. But the kids really enjoy the environment, and I could see them everywhere, even on this giant concrete where they try to protect the beach area from the environmental degradation. They are playing around this area, which is actually not allowed, and they are playing with the dirty water. And we can see here there are some animals also enjoying the rubbish. They are trying to get some foods, and they are doing also some activities around here. Even though the environment are really dirty, but they do really enjoy. They are laughing. They even bath with the dirty water. And this is another phenomenon that happened in Jakarta, Tebet Eco Park. They already closed this park after newly opened. With I think 60,000 visitors coming. They close it because they need to prepare some improvement for the park, and with the better facilities. But this also shows that our city really needs open space for the social activities like this. And this is also the research that we are having in our department, that in Jakarta we are lacking of the fauna, the animals activities in the city, because we are lacking of the trees like this. So we are lacking of the sound of the bird, the pets going around the city, which I think that's one of the one that I miss from Kuala Lumpur, because some years ago I lived in Kuala Lumpur for some years. So I really enjoy the song from the birds in the city center. And even though in some city the river could also make the city safe, lively, again in Jakarta we are having this kind of problem. The river is very dirty, and some part of the river is actually taken for this slum area. This is one of our research that we do, but it's actually for developing the technology for detection and early warning system for the flood, for the flash flood in the city center of Jakarta. But again, unfortunately, we can't really enjoy the river to make the city lively, like what we can see from the Seongcheon River in Korea. They open the road and let the river to breathe the city, and having some green area where the people really enjoying the city afterwards. And this is the latest phenomenon. I think if you are living in Jakarta, or at least if you are Indonesian, you know that Citayam Fashion Week, yeah. Maybe for you from other countries, this is the new activities done by the teenagers, yeah, coming from buffer zones of Jakarta. They are making some kind of like fashion show in their own way. And even though these activities having some controversy, but I think this is one of the example of how city dwellers define their own liveliness or create their own liveliness in the city. Yeah, of course, we are facing some problems with this activity, but at least it's also showing that they need the space. Then they create the space for the activities, even though this one is actually not the legal space, yeah, for them to conduct this kind of activities, but yeah, they create the activities itself. So comes to the index that maybe part of the books that I become part of the writer, Public Transportation Livability Index. Yeah, so we have maybe 3 city cases, and in that chapter, I leave some notes for how the city livability could be defined from the context of the public transportations. The point is actually to make the city livable, to provide the needs of the city dwellers for the mobility, for efficiency, as well as the needs of the sustainable planning of the city itself. It needs a very good plan of the transportation planning, and public transportation is part of that. And those are the indexes that I wrote there. The first one is the system. Second one is the walkability for pedestrian, because pedestrian itself is part of the making the good public transportation planning. And everyone in the city is actually pedestrian. That's why I couldn't leave this. Technology applications, environmental consideration, partnership and participation approach, planning, management, and policies. And from this 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 index, I developed some criteria, though it could be more than this, but through some analysis, I think some criteria could be merged into one and another, because I think we could maybe make another addition later if there is significant development of the city, yeah, for the future. But in an overall, those are the criteria and those are the indicators that I developed from many references and contexts, of course. And each of the indicators have some scores here. I don't include all, because if I include all, that would be very, very long. So I just took some examples here just for your reference. And those are the mapping of how we score. We do the scoring, yeah. We have the beginner, intermediate, advanced, and those are the range, maximum, minimum, and the range was for the beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Of course, the beginner is starts from 0, though I think none of the case could result in 0, and the advanced could reach up to 41 in this context of index. And those are the example for this 6 index. Just now, some of the series, because we took 3 hypothetical case here: sunny city, vibrant city, and wonderful city. Each of the city maybe perform better in certain index, like this one for sunny city really score very high in system, but score very low in partnership and participatory approach. And from these calculations, the wonderful city falls into beginner, vibrant city falls into intermediate, and sunny city falls into advanced. And I also discussed some role models of the city. The first one is Japan. They're really good in planning, and the network of the public transportation, and as well as integration. We can see that in Shibuya here, pedestrian, train network, bus network also. We could see from there. And Singapore is one of the role model that I think is best to refer for considering the public transportation index, public transportation planning to consider or to incorporate in their overall city planning, in general. So that's why they already make the projection of the transportation problems in the future. So that's why they don't really face the problems that we are really facing in Jakarta, because they're already aware of that and making the very good plan, in their master plan. And this is one of the example of the social or people participatory approach, where during the weekdays they really quote unquote encourage or force the societies to use the public transportation, but during the weekend they give back the space, the urban space, for them to do their social activities on the road itself. As you can see that here, they are trying to draw something on the street. And so this is my point, that those issues, those potential or the phenomena that I'm talking about here could be the qualitative one, the qualitative one that we could not see it in details in the very firm form, and some of them are the quantitative one, like this one. We could see the numbers, we could see the range, we could see the value, but some of them are the qualitative, or the value that we could not really measure, we could not really see, is that good or bad, or is it really by context, or is it really according to the plan, or according to the standard that we want to do. So that's why those index, the mapping of those quantitative index are really important. And for the transportation index, I list down here, of course, beside those considerations, social, environmental, infrastructure, or physical development of the city, I include some of the index that really relates to what we need for the city mobility, for the city urban transportation nowadays, especially for number 3, 4, 5, 6. We really need technology applications in incorporating them to the public transportation, because the development of the public transportation really increase. So we need the IT applications to help us to monitor and to communicate with the passengers or the users of the public transportation. And environmental considerations, we all know climate change is real, is here. So we can close our eyes for this. So the development of the technology itself should consider the environmental features. And partnership and participatory approach, how to make it livable, it can be done through the city government only. We need to get the private and the public involved as well. And planning, management, and policies is very, very important. We can't just come to the policy only. We need to start from the very good planning, and the very good planning cannot be done when we already face the problem. So we need to think about that a long way before it happens. And again, I bring us back to the concept that I mentioned earlier. The concern of the livable city is actually the people, the city dwellers itself, but the environmental sustainability and the resilient concept, yeah, in this case, needs also to suit the current context of what our city needs, yeah, especially the technology and how we come together to make the city lively. So that's why I call it emerging key index to suit the current urban development context. So I think that's it from me, Budian. Hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
So much, Miss Lin. So, you know, actually, yeah, I have to say this in the beginning, actually. I wish to say that at the end, but yeah, I have to tell it now. So we are making a book about livable city. We have we already decided there will be several indexes or the quantitative measurements, we call it index. We classified them into some groups which Ms. Lin already stated in her presentation. We still need some writers. Maybe if you want to join us as the writers, we welcome you because there are still some indexes vacant with writers. I will display all after Mr. Liga's presentation. And so, yeah, this book we plan to publish in several editions. We already fixed how many indexes we have. Is this all waiting in line for this first edition? I think there will be about six index first. Yeah, the writers all here now, like me, Miss Lin, and Miss Yuka. Miss Yuka, are you here? And then who's the other one? Oh, Miss Sarifa. Miss Sarifa, I think she's not joining us yet, but yeah. 4 writers will write first six index in our first edition of the Liveable City book, and we will continue with other indexes as soon as our other writers are ready. So if you want to join us in the next edition, maybe second or third, that you are very welcome. Or you can see the vacant indexes and you can choose which one you are interested in. We also have here Mr. Bambang Sumardiono. I think Mr. Bambang is one of our writers too, right? Are you still writing, Mr. Bambang?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Indeed. I have still writing. I have still write the 3 different kind of index. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Bambang is struggling to write 3 indexes. Actually, Miss Yuka also write 3 indexes and already done. Miss Yuka, can you hear me? I think.
Yes, I hear.
Yeah, Miss Yuka work on 3 indexes. And then, yeah, there is Mr. Mustafa also. I think Mr. Mustafa already write some index too.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Mustafa, hi. Mr. Mustafa. Mustafa. Okay, so let's continue to, so that is the big picture, yeah, why Miss Linyola present that way, because we are, I mean, APUD is working on this, actually this book is so big because so many indexes to put on to mention what a livable city is, so it will be published in several editions. Now we will listen to our most awaited, no, my forever favorite presenter, Madam Nurliza Hashim. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Dian. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang, selamat sore ya, bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu. I think mostly from Indonesia this afternoon. I only see 2 familiar names from Malaysia. So yeah, it's good to be in touch while we are so far away. So I will just share with you. I thank you so much also to the first presenter, I think it was very important that you shared some of those contacts with us, and especially from the Indonesian side, the research that you have done. Probably I just want to share a different perspective, something that we here also are working on, and and how we are bringing this into a different level altogether. So I think when we talk about livable cities, it has been some time already, even when you talk about all the rating, the ranking tools that have been evaluating livability, it has been more than probably 2 decades. We've been having all these rating tools, So I think that is something that, it already provides you with a very big amount of database. It also gives you quite a lot of understanding whether or not how you use some of these indices that has been developed. So, but my point of view, after more than 30 years working with cities, I now work a lot with society, and I think the first speaker also touched a lot about people factor there, because when you talk about cities, you cannot avoid talking about people. So if you look at the world now, we are almost like, over 90 billion population. It's going to go up to like 93, 2040, and I was told it's going to go up to 98 billion. I think Indonesia have 265 million population, and its population definitely doesn't grow. But when cities or nation starts to get very developed, one of the main things we must also realize is that the growth will slow down. And this is already happening in Malaysia. If you look at our own in Malaysia now, we are seeing our growth rates slowing down. And also today, I did a quick check on Indonesia itself. Your urbanization rate now has surpassed the 50%. So you're more like 57%. And I think it's expected to go up to 65%. And the target is by 2050, 3/4 of Indonesian population will be living in cities. But the growth rate, even though there's many people that's going to be living in cities, because maybe rural areas are also becoming cities, but you will have a decline in growth. And I think your decline is so substantial, just like what we are facing. Malaysia is already facing that slow growth rate, actually. So why this is very important, because we are all the time dealing with planning. We are all dealing with new things, and because of that, we need to understand the society of today, the society of tomorrow. And this is what cities is actually about, societies in our lives. And this is reflected on, whatever kind of measurement that you want to do, it does need to reflect on the local situation. So most important is looking at how we future-proof our city. Meaning to say that the word for a long time, we've always talked about sustainability, where we say that whatever we do today, we have to think about the future. But actually, whatever we do today, we must consider that that it is actually not only meeting the needs of the future, but it can future-proof our city, be it in terms of infrastructure, be it in terms of climate change, addressing climate change, be it even thinking about whether society really needs the kind of solution that we are doing today. So future-proofing our cities will require us to understand more than just about needs, We need to understand about demographics change, for example. Many countries now are going into aging society. Malaysia, we are about 7%. 2030, we become aged society, about 14%. And sorry, 2040, we will be an aged society. 2050, we will be a super aged society when 20% of our population will be old. Now, we grow old fast, but we don't build the necessary infrastructure to meet that growing age fast enough, So I'm not sure what the statistics are for Indonesia. I remember like 10, 15 years ago, Indonesia always said that it has very young population, but people grow old, even young people grow old. And this is where we need to understand when that trajectory goes into that phase. We will still have young people, even in Malaysia, we still have young people. But when you age, are we ready for that? Not so much in terms of, are we ready in terms of social protection? Are we ready in terms of health infrastructure? Are we ready in terms of our built environment so that the aging society can just be as independent as the younger society? So when you go to the west part of the world, you see a lot of old people. You also see a lot of disabled people on the streets. Not because there are many old or people or many disabled people, it's because the built environment actually allows them to be outside. But in Malaysia, I don't know what the situation is in Malaysia. We protect our old people. We keep them at home. We love them so much that we keep them at home. But it's not really the right way to do so, because in the end of the day, it's actually very expensive, especially when society are not able to have that ability to cope with the situation. So these are probably social dimensions which needs to be brought into the whole livability of cities, because the city is very dynamic, the city is very diverse. We cannot be thinking just about, one group of segment of society. Yeah? So it's very important that we understand this huge dimension we are facing. On top of that, I think we all know this is what we are going through daily. We are going through all kinds of urban crises, and we not only battle COVID. We think we are over it, but now we have Malaysia, we have monkeypox, we have all kinds of things. But we also are challenged with climate change and all forms of conflicts, be it political conflicts, be it people conflicts, all kinds of conflicts that we are also going through. Again, this is the big question when we talk about livability, how do we address this element on crisis, I had a meeting with my own Minister of Federal Territories 2 days ago. And, even though he said it in the most layman manner, it does strike to me. He said to me and asked me, what are your plans for the inevitable? So it took me, I had to pause for a while before I answer him, Maknanya kalau di luar jangka itu, bagaimana perancangannya? Yeah, he asked me, So because he said that you plan for everything that you can think of. Everything is in the document. But the inevitable, the unexpected, we can't predict. And this is where the best we can do is just be prepared. And again, we want to continue livability even in times of crisis. I was judging a competition on real play 2 years ago during COVID. And the real play is about creating spaces in the city for, for all groups of people. And one submission that entered was about doing a playground in a war zone. And it was very heartening to see how they created boxes of toys that were sent to war zones so that children can continue to play. Now, these are what livability is all about. It's not about you have nice spaces all the time, but it's actually giving that element of equality to everyone, no matter what their situation is. So in time of conflict, in time of sadness, in times of COVID, in times of war, how do we actually still have that level of livability? So I think the concept of livability, as the first speaker have actually spoken a lot, I don't want to touch upon this. I just wanted to reflect on what this is all about. So we have this EIU, they are keep on doing that. When I first interacted with them more than 10 years ago, they were evaluating only like 126 cities. Now they are evaluating more than 173 cities, but their categories remain the same. And if you look at here, they are looking at stability, healthcare, culture and environment, education and infrastructure. So if we talk about stability in areas of conflict, you never score livability. But yet again, even people in conflicts desire to have livability. And that's what I was reflecting to you about that children, having this box of toys being sent to them, even they were in a war zone in conflicts, And you can see, during COVID, even for many years since 2015, you always see this list of 10 top cities always being in the top 10, It's either Melbourne, Vienna, Sydney, Vancouver, But come COVID, it was totally a different situation altogether. And you see even Auckland, who had never been in the chart, for the last few years, suddenly came up back. So this is where response, my element on urban crisis just now comes to the importance of how cities which are more ready versus cities that are not ready. So this is where I think it's very important when you're addressing livability, ranking, rating, for you to really understand what you're dealing with. And we have many, we have Mercer, quality of living ranking. We even have the lifestyle magazine, Monaco, quality of living. So you see all their variables, But I always see that, all these rating system, they actually are meant for whatever purpose that they are championing. So I think it is very correct when the first speaker is trying to develop an Indonesian model of livability index, because only you can decide what your index are. Because if you try to measure against some of this, you might not even make the mark, because they are actually meant. For example, the Monocle is actually trying to develop a lifestyle kind of index, quality of living ranking also. Once they put all these 200 cities, how do you close the gap between the richest city and the poorest city? How do you close that gap? I mean, let's think about it, So what I would do, actually, Dian, when you asked me to speak, I had to go back to my notes almost 15 years ago, because actually I already throw all these index away. Seriously, because when I was looking at it, I just realized that, these index had purposes and they were designed for whatever purpose that they wanted it for. So what's best is actually for you to start clean. And I think maybe what you are trying to do is very correct, So in Malaysia, we have also, again, we have many index, we started with this Murninet index. This is not just the one. This is just the one in my domain, but there are so many in different ministry, So if you look at even in Malaysia, we also have these different indexes. We have Murninet, which actually look at the element of sustainability but they actually were tying back our new economic policy, our economic plan with our urbanization policy, and looking at what dimensions and indicators to measure that element of sustainability. And these measurements are being done at the local government level. So they have the 6 dimensions that they took in, looking at competitive economy, sustainable environmental quality, healthy community, land use and optimal land resource, effective infrastructure and transport, and even governance. So this tool is actually to measure and evaluate the sustainability level of the local authority. And out of this, you can also take out the subset on the healthy communities, and you can actually look at that from that point of view. And I think this is something that we've been using since quite a while. In fact, it's in the 2nd version now. But not only that, these are just to show you the dimensions and the indicators and how they relate to the local indicators. And we also have our Department of Statistics, which also look at well-being index. So again, they measure it on a yearly basis. Again, they look at economic, social elements as part of how we evaluate well-being. So every time you change the indexes, definitely it will give you a different point of view. And now this is Malaysia's latest one. It's going to be launched only next week by our Federal Department of Town and Country Planning. We call them IDAM, or Malaysia Liveability Index, and this will actually help to benchmark levels of well-being, quality of life, as well as livability. It is meant to be a high impact measuring tool, and it will also gauge the effectiveness of the measure so that we achieve our level of livability. But these indexes, at the end of the day, whether or not these indexes will actually achieve the true problems on the ground is something that is something that we ourselves here in Malaysia from time to time have a debate, questioning it so that we can improve them further. But what I know for sure is that this era, this COVID era that we are moving into, this is actually that perfect opportunity for us to really look back at what we are doing. It's an opportunity for us to create change. And it should not just be focusing on livability, it should also be focusing on elements on sustainability and resiliency, which also the first speaker was mentioning about briefly. So this is where we do need this rethinking, whether it's index or policy or a paradigm shift, whether it's urban design, whether it's engineering, whether it's people working with social spaces, I think it is giving us this great opportunity to rethink. And there are so many fundamental documents that we can look at to use it as our guideline and framework so that we can decide locally what we really want to measure. And the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot of work in terms of localization of goals, localization of indexes, how you localize that. Because if you look at some of the indexes, you cannot measure it to the dot. You can't geo-reference them. You know there are poor people, but you don't know which house is poor. I mean, if you go on the ground and walk, but you can't walk in every city, So how do you make decisions for improvement? How do you make decision on policy when your data, your understanding is actually like 10,000 feet high? What we want is more grounded measures, more at grade kind of measures, so that it doesn't matter if it is small, it doesn't matter if it's simple, but it creates that capacity to be more resilient in the future and also more sustainable in the future. And I think that is the essence of livability over a long period of time. You know, we cannot just talk about livability and not talk about how this becomes very important for everyone. So the principle is all about, you know, leaving no one behind. I think health and well-being is core now, you know, it's very central. Capacity is very important, and this means capacity at all levels, from decision makers to the community, to understand what sustainability is all about, livability is all about, and even resiliency is all about. We need to be more interconnected in terms of, you know, governance, even in terms of how we are doing things. Our blueprints needs to be more interconnected, and we need to really be equitable in all forms lah. And whatever we do, I think very important is to have that approach on multi-stakeholders and partnerships. So this is where we have actually started to develop a different kind of a framework, where we call this the Malaysia SDG Cities Roadmap. And in doing this, we actually bring a different dimension. Not because we love the SDGs so much, but the SDGs actually is an evolution of 5 years of work across the whole continent, with more than, I don't know, thousands of white papers that was debated even all the way to Surabaya, you know. So this is where preparatory meetings become very important, because they represent voices of people. So I find that it is a logical way, because you are looking at targets, but these targets are just targets, you know, you need to localize it. So what we have done in Malaysia is actually try to bring it down to a very local level at the municipality level. And we bring the 17 SDGs to very clear outcomes that we want to achieve. These outcomes should not be the same for you. It actually should be very much whatever is important for you. This is what's important for us based on our own engagement. And then we set up a process. Now, why is this process important? Because I believe we have been doing sustainability, livability for probably decades, even in Indonesia. You know, every people that you talk to, if it's an architect or a planner or engineer, they probably have done it. So this is why it's important to start mapping it. You know, what have you done? And what, even if despite what you have done, why are you still having gaps? So mapping this, understanding this, setting a new vision, aligning this becomes part of that process. I won't go into very detail, because normally this is like a whole training thing, but I thought, you know, it'd be good to share it with friends from Indonesia. But this is now how we want to encourage our blueprint setting for cities today. We want them to go all the way and look at it as an ecosystem, all the way even until how budget allocations are done. You know, budget allocations, how often is budget allocation gender responsive? How often is budget allocation at the local level very driven by sustainability? I think this is something that, you know, you need to frame this in a holistic manner. If not, you will keep on having the gap. So on one hand, we talk about livability, but there's no budget to support livability. So you have a plan, you need to bring it all the way down to the ground and make sure that the ecosystem becomes very solid and concrete. And the reason why SDGs becomes quite a good tool is because the goals are actually integrated, they are actually interrelated, and doing one helps you to actually address another issue. So I think this is why it becomes very important. So we in Malaysia, we have our own indicators, a national indicator, and we also have developed local indicators for cities. And these are indicators, and actually how SDG works is that it is always looked at a more holistic manner. You don't do like SDG 1, you do 1, 2, 3 things, you know. For example, here, you're looking at a program which is age-friendly city. So when you're doing an age-friendly city program, you can actually overcome so many things at one time. So if you have this approach, keep on going and going, you know, then you will be able to close your own gap and your own loop as you move on over time. And I think that's what livability is all about. You know, it's not about just providing affordable housing, but it's about affordable living, because affordable living brings a bigger ecosystem into the whole equation. It's not about landscape, but it's about ecology and green urbanism, because that's what we want to keep for the future. And it's not just about today or today's people, but it's about every time we plan for the children and we plan for the aging. A city that fits everyone together, not one part of the city for youth, one part of the city for the age, you know. Can we have a city that have it for everyone, and a city that actually appreciates our culture, you know, your local culture, so that every city, I think this is the best about Indonesia. You're very strong on cultural capital. So don't lose that. Don't move into the modernism part and lose the cultural capital, because this is something which is about resiliency, which is very, very core. And at the end of the day, you know, climate proving our cities is very important, because our infrastructure need to last. I know, no matter typhoon or heavy rainfall, you know, how do we make sure everything works together? And last but not least is making sure all the time we bring the stakeholders into the discussion. And because of that, you know, this is where you design your city, you plan your city better and better all the time. So we are starting to do these plans now at state level. So if you look at all this, you know, it gives you, you know, this is the state of Selangor. You see this pattern. I'm not going to go through the detail, but you can see the pattern, right? This belongs to Selangor. Now, this is Kuala Lumpur. This belongs to Kuala Lumpur. What I'm trying to say is that there's no mall. There's no mall. If you start to do it this way, every city address their issue on their own. This is Kuala Lumpur's report card. Kuala Lumpur even evaluates their own department, where they are. This is another city called Salam. See, they are all different. So once you start this process, you will end up with cities responding to their own issues, their own needs, and coming up with their own solutions. And I think that will be the beauty of it. And then you have to bring all your other partners into play, including the private sector. And even now we are starting to work with private sectors to do evaluation. So this is the process that we have started here in Malaysia. You know, we started to have a network of cities, you know, and yeah, you know, that's why Dian, when you asked me to be one of the writer, I don't know how to write that index anymore, you know, because actually I've actually put it aside, because I believe all that index are still valid tools, but if the validity of the tools needs to bring to a bigger agenda, which is sustainability, resiliency, you know, that we want to achieve. Because I think after so long of working on this sustainability domain, I find that, you know, we are still far from achieving it, mainly because that, you know, we are just doing it in pieces. So that's all that I have to share. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, and if you're in KL, come and visit our SDG Center in Kuala Lumpur. You know, this is right in the middle of Kuala Lumpur near Dataran Merdeka. Yeah, this is our latest showcase for the city. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am. You see, dear audience, you see that was a wrap up of more than 50 years experience and work, you know. You know, now I think that I should charge you expensively. I'm so lucky. I feel so lucky to be here, and I think you should feel that too. You know, yeah, actually, ma'am, now I have to share my screen. So this is what we are working on. Yeah, we start from clean slate. Why is it dark? Yeah, right. So this is the criteria that we agreed to make the quantitative indicator. So this was made with our honorary members too, like Mr. William, Mr. Mustafa, and yeah, Madam Noriza have not been involved yet, which I hope soon, but I hope that any of the audience here can be interested too to join us. So this is still flexible because you know you can suggest other criteria. So this grouping was made by Mr. William, our members in Singapore, and then we put what's on each of the criteria. So in each of these criteria, let's say mine, I'm working on water infrastructure here. I have several sub-criteria, and then each sub-criteria has its own indicators. So it's really a big family tree of this book. This book is really a big family tree. It has many branches. One criterion here leads to several sub-criteria. One sub-criteria can have more than one indicators like that. And so I think Miss Lin is working on the public transportation index, this one, and then I work on water infrastructure, and then Miss Yuka is working on cultural sustainability, and what else, ma'am? I forgot, Miss Yuka.
Yeah.
You work on cultural sustainability and what other?
Political stability and housing.
Political stability and housing, right? And then Miss Sarifa from Malaysia too. She is working on waste management. Yeah, so that was all the indexes we're gonna publish in the first book. So the rest of the other criteria is still open. Who will be the writer for our next edition? And you are welcome. Actually, Mr. Bambang and Mr. Mustafa working on the some of the indexes, but well, we are open. So who write faster, then that will be accepted. So yes, Ms. Nurliza was right that we already think about sustainability and resiliency in making this criteria. Like resiliency, we put this in physics criteria. Natural disaster mitigation it's how a city can mitigate and bounce back from natural disaster. And then about the green and ecology, of course, that was the first thing came into our mind. We have this green coverage plot ratio, environmental comfort, even the natural environment preservation. This is working. This is have been working by Mr. Bambang, and then the development independence. So, and then what else? The age, yeah. So yeah, it's important that a city should accommodate the needs of all segments of age of its population. So yeah, I think it will be fulfilled in this like energy, food security, housing, public transportation, waste management. Also, yeah, there is the gender issue in each of them, and then yes, cultural, of course. So that's why we put this cultural sustainability in the social and cultural. This has been a very distinctive criteria. We put it special social and cultural index. And about money, yes, of course, nothing can work without money. So we put economic here, and since it's always related to politics, so we put it into one group, economy and politics criteria. Right. So is anyone here wants to give suggestion on the criteria or indicators, or maybe asking something to our presenters or asking about our book? Please, we welcome your questions and comments. Maybe he just wants to join us, right, as writer? And Omar?
Kemudian,
Yes. Who is this?
Bambang.
Oh yeah, Pak Bambang, Mr. Bambang. How is it?
I'm sorry, I should close the video because I am on the outpost
Yeah.
on the way to home. I think I'm very impressed with the one of the quotes. Yeah, I think all of this and I knowledge about the city, the livable city should for all, for the children, for ages, and so on. This is the point that I should give, that as a livable city, it should be, for all, for all. That's one of the important things that should be considered. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
Can you get my explanation?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
From Ibu Norliza, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so we have this public facility provision, which should be for all ages in the social and culture criteria, also education, and we have public participation index itself. Yeah. And Ms. Norliza also informed us about the importance of technology. We have it also here in the infrastructure criteria, number 7. This is ICT, we put it since the beginning.
I think Pak Bambang kan, the most challenging when we want to say a city for all is actually really meaning it is for all, ya Pak. Maknanya benar-benar untuk semua. Saya rasa itu yang paling susah. For example, in Malaysia, we have always an issue about, some of our people who are migrating to Malaysia, who are undocumented, So we always have a lot of debate, So people who are very into social inclusiveness, we say yes, they also have the right to the city. That means to say right to everything, infrastructure, housing, because they are part of society. So this is, saya rasa, an issue that all cities will face eventually. And when you look at the Ukraine issue, when a lot of them actually went into Europe, they actually brought these people into their houses and live with them, So yeah, I mean, it's not easy when we say cities for all. It is really embracing that. And I think, like we also have homeless issue in our city in Malaysia, So now we are starting to build transit homes for them. And we put these transit homes in the middle of the city because they won't move, Pak. If you move them out, they come back because they are very comfortable inside the city. So whatever you want to do for them, it must be inside the city. So this is the tricky part lah, where when you really have to walk the talk lah when we say inclusive, not just bilang kita engage, kita we have for the old, for the young, semuanya ada. Tapi in a situation, even if we look at it from an economic point of view, actually by making them inclusive, you save a lot of other problems, and you can save a lot of money also. Because
Yeah.
if you have more drug problems, you also have to have more problems on health to care for them. And if you have vandalism problem, you have to have more money to repair your urban services. So, but if you care for them, you take care of them, you bring them part of your city system. You give them jobs, like in San Francisco. I visited there. Some of the people working in the public library were homeless before. So because San Francisco have one of the highest homelessness issue, because of despite it being the Silicon Valley of the United States. So yeah, so it's not easy. It is a very tricky thing to do, but it's the most important thing to do, and you need to do it with partners. Government cannot do this alone. You have to bring partners in, private sectors in, to create the awareness.
Yeah, Bunda Lisa. That's right.
Pak Bambang mau ke mana tuh?
Mau pulang ke rumah.
Yeah.
It's time to go home.
Yeah, ma'am. So actually, we will make so that will be like accommodating the need of all segments of age. Will become indicator in each of the criteria that we have now, that 5, that A to E, but we already put it itself, like in the criteria D, social and culture group, that is number 4, public participation. So that is supposed to make sure that public is involved since the planning process, like either in the House of Representatives, in the higher level of policy, either in the to the micro planning, like in the level of district, maybe. We call it in Indonesia is musrenbang, ya. It's a musyawarah perencanaan pembangunan. It can be in the level of national, province, and then city, and then a regency, until in the level of village. So this index, this public participation index, is meant to measure that participation in that level of planning. So I think who will work? Who will plan this year? Is that you, Mr. Bambang, working on public participation index?
Yeah, I work on this issue, and I think we have already discussed about it, Bu Dian.
Yeah,
that
you, right?
That participation should be in 3 stages, yeah. After program, before program, and into program.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot who will write this because so many criteria, and there will be so many writers. So yeah.
Already on the Google Drive.
Okay. Yeah. So other indexes are still available for you if you want to join us as the writers. Maybe who is this? Ijaz, and then Ms. Nurfaida, Mr. Omar. I think Mr. Omar is in one office with Ms. Nurliza. And Ms. Lisa, Mr. Faiza, maybe Ms. Nina wants to join, and Mr. Hari and Ms. Katriani also. Mr. Geraint also. Mr. Geraint, I think Mr. Geraint from Malaysia, right? And then Ms. Tigin and Mr. Kevi and Ms. Chri Wahyuni. Yeah, I think if you want to help, then you can contact me after this our forum. Other questions maybe for our presenters? from audience. Waalaikumsalam. Who is this?
Will you be here? Can you hear me? Ijaz.
Oh, Ijaz, yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation and also invitation. I'm actually not very sure what I'm going to write at the moment, but in terms of this indexing, I agree that it's actually we need to see all the cities actually for everyone, and we also need to look back what actually the value of the city that we have, who are there, and probably what we have. Talking about who, probably we need to see back the history back, people who are staying there, people who are staying now, and probably a projection of people in the future who will be using or who are the users of the city. Of course, we know people are coming to cities nowadays, and we need to see who are they. We want to take care, of course, we want to take care of everyone. But there are certain cities, probably there are more younger generation who come in. Probably there are also cities where a lot of aging people are coming in, or who are staying in and they don't want to leave, or they are always want to stay at their city, or because probably this is their village previously. The village become urban, so they always want to stay at the place. So we need to see that how they will be function in the city. My thinking is that if you want to do anything, if you want to develop anything, if you want to plan anything, the infra, the development, I think we need to look at these people. I think we need to see the need. Maybe we need to see some kind of other parts that we want to highlight. Of course, we want to take care of everyone. We want to take care with patience. We want to take care of these people. Not only these people, actually. We might think that we want to take care, this is our family. I think that's the main point that I want to share to everyone. Make everyone as a family, so our planning is more caring. That's my what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing now. Yeah, care with patience. That's my point. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ijaz. Yeah. Don't worry. We will write it together. You will know what to write because it's actually, yeah, livability is a complex, really complex. You know, even Miss Nurliza and Malaysia still developing the index they made. It's not absolute, right, Miss Nurliza? It develops over time, and we try to make it as update as possible in today's condition, and we make it we simplify it so public, really common people can use it to say, so they can say with whether we live in a livable city or not, whether our city is livable or not, like that, because they are the one who really live in their city day to day, not outsider who come and judge their city is livable or not, like that. So this is quantitative and will be objective and will be as simple as possible, so common people can easily understand how to use it, right? So yeah, you can. Yes.
About resilience as well, I think we need to see what will happen, most probably the climate change, and of course, for example, on some cities probably flood, banjir, but of course, probably some other places actually impacting other places. So we need to see our surrounding as well. For example, there are certain issue or some environmental impact happens on the other side, on the neighboring, and it actually impacted on the other city, impacted on our city, for example. Like there's water disturbance in other places, but it actually impacted our place. So we don't have water because of that thing happened on the other side. So in terms of resilience, yes, we need to plan on this as well. So even other places happen badly, it might be impacted on the side, impacted on our city.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see that you are interested to write about resiliency. Yeah, I mean maybe disaster mitigation here, natural disaster mitigation. So we try to cover all measurement of the disaster could happen. Start from identifying the disaster itself. It can be an earthquake, volcano eruption, and a flood, and maybe tsunami and heat wave and all. So yeah, we have this natural disaster mitigation. And then for like flood is actually not quite natural. So it has something to do with the water infrastructure. So we put what do you call it? An index to measure whether your city is prepared or planned to be resilient on the flood is in the water infrastructure. Don't worry, we try to cover it all, although it's not definitely should be in this index, but other index can accommodate it. This criteria, they are supporting each other, right? And yeah, I think you can write this natural disaster mitigation if you want. I think it's still vacant. So yeah, is there anything wanted to be asked to our presenters, or anyone interested to be writer in which index, which criteria? If not, I want to share our link here as our appreciation that you join us today now. In the chat box, it's our book. This book actually, let me share the screen. Yeah, this is the book that I just gave the link. So we have a library of ebooks, hundreds of ebooks. We get them from prominent publishers around the globe. So this one that I give you is one of the example of it, the nature of the city, green infrastructure from the ground up. So yeah, we you can read this freely. We give these ebooks, new ebooks each week to our members. So you can every topic you can see the reference here, from resiliency, sustainability, and even cultural, even the bio what do you call it, biosystem, yeah, in a city, right? So that's all. I think maybe Mr. Angger wants to conclude, or Miss Norliza or Miss Lin wants to conclude our session today. Or Mr. Bambang?
I think for me, it's just, I think it's very good that, you know, we are trying to do this book. I think it's very important. I think even if we come up with a very simple book, you know, for something that can be developed over time, it will be better than trying to. That I don't think the index will ever be something that should be cast in stone. It should be allowed for flexibility. It should be allowed for growth. And even here in Malaysia, even in some of our index, even though we have like 10 index, but then, the implementation also is developed in phases. We don't measure it all at one time. Because once you want to go into this index, you must understand you need data because you need to measure. So the next step, what is the next step? The next step is to make sure all cities have that data. If not, you are measuring cities at a different level and they will be very angry, if the results don't come out. So yeah, you need to have that minimum indexes. So I think the indexes should be kept very simple, and that is why I don't really use index anymore. I find that it's okay to allow the city just to understand where they are today and where they want to go forward, and let them take that steps to go forward, as long as they understand that they want to get to it. So for example, if the city decide that I'm going to have no homeless people in 10 years time, so they take that 10 year steps to eradicate homelessness. So, but you can't do that with an index, because you're putting everyone on that same line. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to develop, I mean, this is very important that we don't get too absorbed in that system. It's meant to allow us that flexibility to decide what to use. So if the point of time where we want to use index, then we use the index. But if not, there are many ways in trying to get the goals going. That would be my view, because my interest now is to make sure we achieve sustainability, whether with or without indexes. So if we plan to have the indexes, and the way we structure it is now very sectorial or subject matter, make it make it very localized, or make it as flexible as possible. Don't be too rigid. Who are we to decide that the measurement is XXX? Who are we to determine that? It's based on literature review, but that's not good enough. Literature review is not good enough. The real thing on the ground is the best, So that means something to think about. Yeah, that would be from me. Thank you. I'm sorry to be so controversial.
No.
But it's based on what I've gone through the last 30 years. It's very important. We work on this on a. I don't want you to start repeating mistakes that's already been done.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. So yeah, that is the flexible thing is actually the first thing that we tried to work on since 2 years ago. This book was planned since 2 years ago, and we tried to make it flexible and simple. It took us 2 years, and then for this first edition, because for the simplest example is like this: if we want to measure if the city is prepared or not to face a tsunami, while actually not all cities facing sea. Like that is, so we cannot just put the same indicator, like even if you don't have even if your city doesn't face sea, then you still have to be measured whether you are prepared for tsunami or not. Like that. We try to develop that as flexible.
As long as the indicators are not meant to compete each other, it's not meant for a competition. It must be having that right understanding on why we are doing it.
Yeah, because the objective why we are making this index is not to make one city competitive to each other in case of livability, but to know the position of that city right now. Like what you said was very right, that like now if is to realize what we are lacking now, like if through this index, after measuring by with this index, we know that we are not prepared in flood, then we know what to do next. Okay, we have to prepare to of ourselves for facing flood like that. That is our objective actually, not to rate any city and make them compete who is the most livable city of all, no? Like that. Right, and maybe another conclusion, maybe from you, Miss Yuka, Miss Lin, Mr. Bambang.
Yeah. For me, I think like what I also discussed earlier in our group, I think, highlighting the context or the scoping of this book is very, very important, because I could realize that some of the index that we are writing, there is also gap one to another. So I think having the notes maybe in preface or the introductions of the books on the scoping limitation or context to which case, for example, or which area this book could be considered, I think is recommended to do, Budian. And not also to ignore that in the very big country like Indonesia, we need kind of like indicators to see what cities are the priority, for example, to improve, to develop more, or to give certain level of concerns from the government, because we're having so many remote series in Indonesia. So I think that's one of the significance, I think, and that could be also written in the preface of the books. So I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So you can write your preface, and then we will compile with other other
sure.
preface writers. Yeah, because Mr. Mustafa already put his preface. if you read in the framework, that was from Mr. Mustafa.
Sure.
We will compile all preface from all writers.
All right.
Miss Yuka and Mr. Bambang, maybe before we close.
Yeah, I have read a book about Liveable City, and there is some interesting quotes about three things in Liveable City. How the people like, what the people like, what the people didn't like, and what the suggestions of the people in increasing or enhancing the program. So I think the very important thing is the participation and also the humans in the city, and how we cope with this problem, and the humans. I think the participation, the humans, the community, this is the important thing in a livable city. So this is my what I would like to say about it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bambang. Oh yeah, about the data Ms. Norliza mentioned. Yeah, the data we also put in the book of how to, which data we will use in each index, and how you can get it also, like in my index, water infrastructure, sample of the water that is required for the measurement is formed in the book also, like that. Yeah, Ms. Nuriza was right. Data is important. So without data, we cannot measure And maybe Miss Yuka?
Yeah, I enjoy this meeting. I try to learn the both of presenter, the nice presenters, to enrich maybe my paper also, to increase my paper, because both very carefully to write and describes. Yeah, thank you, Madam Lin and Mr. Madam Norika. Thank you.
Right. I think that's all, yeah. Mr. Angger, have you wrapped it up? Have you wrapped up our discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You are quiet all the time. Do you have something to say? Maybe we forgot something.
Yes, it's so many points, important point that I noticed in this meeting. And the first, we have 23 participants in this day, include the committee and also speakers. And I make notes about some explain from the speakers. Is from phenomenal, and then how we need to do like integrated system for transport, and also how about make a very good planning and policies. And then there is statement quite interesting that if we need to think about the future, because it related with sustainability. So I think, yes, we need to think about the future. That's what Mrs. Norisa said. And then the others is about how city is becoming for all people. And that's it's really meaning for all city is. And the other one and the last one is about a flexible thing. I think that's enough from me, ma'am.
Okay, right then. I think we close this session. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have if you have publication, please send it to our email. We can publish them in our journal named Urbanism. Right? Okay. And for you who have not joined our WhatsApp group, you can send a request to me. We will invite you in our group. Okay. Goodbye. Thank you all. Thank you, Miss Lin. Thank you, Miss Madam Norliza.
Thank
Miss
you.
Yuka. And all. Bye. See you later. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pak Bambang jangan lupa menulis ya.